It's 4:30 on WKYT this morning. Major developments in the Center Point project. Lexington city leaders have told the developer it's time to see a change there.
This morning, we're learning more about an incident at an unlicensed daycare in Lexington.
And some Lexington community leaders say it's time to come together to make the city a better place. We'll tell you what they have planned.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning to you and welcome. It's nice to have you with us here on WKYT as we get this day off and rolling. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Rebecca Smith. It's a little chilly, but a lot warmer, it seems like, than yesterday morning, so that's good news, and hopefully we'll get even warmer. Let's check in now with Micah Harris.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're looking outside. We see a few clouds overhead, and that always helps us during the nighttime hours not get as cold. Live sky camera, there is your shot right there. And remember, at this time yesterday, we were in the upper 30s, lower 40s, but right now we're only sitting in the 40s for all. So it really isn't as cold like Rebecca was talking about, but it's still on that cool side, sitting at 45 degrees in Lexington. By the afternoon, 67. It's getting better. It's mainly dry today. We can't rule out a slight chance of rain, especially far south. But as we head into tomorrow, that's your rain chance. What are we looking at? Thunderstorms, heavy rain? I'll show you that coming up in a few minutes.
We are tracking a breaking news alert right now out of Lincoln County. That's where Kentucky State Police investigating a deadly crash.
Dispatchers are telling us that the crash happened about 1:45 this morning, about 2 miles south of Stanford on US 27. They say 2 cars were involved in the crash and the road was shut down overnight. Troopers tell us 1 person was killed. They have not yet released the victim's name. They also say an animal was killed in the crash. Right now, drivers are being directed onto Highway 1247 as a detour. We'll track the latest for you, keep you updated here on WKYT This Morning.
Well, new this morning, a man was rushed to UK hospital overnight after police say he was shot in the stomach. This happened around 1:30 this morning on Caudell Drive at the Cedarwood Apartments. Officers say the man was approached by 4 men who demanded cash at gunpoint. The man was taken to UK hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. K-9 units searched the area. So far, no arrests have been made.
It's an eyesore and it's costly. There hasn't been any construction activity at the Centerpoint development for weeks now, and Lexington leaders sent a letter to the developer asking that the site be filled in and return to how it looked before. Now, this comes less than 2 weeks after WKYT went looking for answers about the project's future. Here's a live look this morning at the Centerpoint block in downtown Lexington. City leaders say the request is part of the agreement that they made with developer Dudley Webb before construction was to have started. Monique Blair has the story.
It's despicable. It's a huge hole with a fence around it, and it's just an eyesore.
Jack Tyler Skidmore isn't alone in his disconcerting attitude towards what was supposed to be a hotel and an apartment building, among other businesses. But because of the possibility something like this could happen, in 2013, the city of Lexington made Centerpoint developer Dudley Webb sign an agreement stating that if no work was done on the site for 60 consecutive days, the developer would have to fill it in.
He's failed to meet those deadlines, failed to reach those milestones, and as a result, the city has triggered its right to require him to restore the property back to the pre-construction condition.
Restoring the area to its original state means the dirt, the utilities, the 4-plank fencing, and even the grass must look like it did prior to this construction. But Tuesday night in a phone interview with WKYT's Sam Dick, Dudley Webb said there was a, quote, miscommunication. Webb said crews were pouring concrete on Monday.
And the failure to move forward with any substantial construction whatsoever speaks for itself, regardless of what Mr. Webb may believe is a miscommunication or not.
Webb said, quote, I don't understand it. We're going to build the project. We have a bond buyer. What kind of message are you sending these people?
How many years that this property is sat vacant? How many banks has he talked to? How many bond issuers and underwriters has he spoken to? And to date, there's still no one committed to the project, just empty rhetoric about we have a buyer, we have a lender, but none materializes when the day comes.
Attorney for the city, Mason Miller, says Webb has 60 days to complete the restoration of Centerpoint. But if there is significant progress on Webb's part, the city could give that deadline some leeway. In Lexington, Monique Blair, WKYT.
Now, the city's attorney says the letter is self-executing, meaning that no other action is needed and that it is effective immediately. Webb can go to the city and discuss the letter at any time, but right now he is obligated to start the restoration process. Webb tells us that he would like to explain where they're standing right now with council members and that he is not hiding.
Well, this morning questions have been raised about a Lexington daycare after a toddler there bit a baby. The baby's mother claims the owner wasn't even in the room at the time, and we've learned since that the daycare was not actually licensed with the state. Garrett Weimer talked to the baby's mother. He's tracking this investigation this morning.
Emily Keene has learned a lot this week.
But it's definitely taught me, don't trust anybody, I won't.
For months, Keene took her kids to a daycare inside a home on Raleigh Road. But Monday, she says the owner told her a toddler bit her 5-month-old baby Michael while the owner was outside taking a smoke break.
He can't say help, he can't get up, he can't move away. He just literally had to lay there and let this kid do it. And that's what it absolutely drives me crazy every time I think about it.
Now we've learned the Cabinet for Health and Family Services says that daycare is not licensed. Folks who live nearby tell me they didn't know their neighbor was running a daycare, that nothing really stood out other than kids playing in the backyard from time to time.
Oh, this is my kid, this is my blood. I mean, I want to do something about it.
Keene says she's sharing her story so other parents will do their homework before picking a daycare. The Office of the Inspector General says to remember the 3 P's when you're picking a daycare. Paperwork, is a license posted? Premises, tour inside and outside the daycare center. And programming, observe the interaction between staff and children. All important steps, Keene says, so others don't go through what they did. In Lexington, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
Well, the Office of the Inspector General is now investigating that daycare.
Baltimore City's public schools are set to reopen today after days of protest.
Well, the first night of a mandatory curfew was in effect overnight. All this after a man died while in police custody. CBS's Edward Lawrence has the latest from Baltimore.
National Guard troops in armored Humvees are patrolling the now empty streets of Baltimore.
Citizens are safe. The city is stable. We hope to maintain it that way.
Shortly before 10 p.m. Tuesday, police in riot gear, backed by community members, moved in on crowds of mostly peaceful protesters, instructing them to go home after the mandatory curfew took effect.
Show's over, people. Let's go home.
But some defiant protesters squared off with police, throwing bottles and rocks. Officers deployed smoke, pepper spray, and made about 10 arrests. The situation on the ground is a far cry from the events of just 24 hours ago, when looting, rioting, and fires overshadowed the calls for justice for Freddie Gray. The 25-year-old died of a spinal cord injury a week after being taken into police custody. Many activists believe the tragedy highlights ongoing issues between law enforcement and the communities they serve.
It's important for us to establish a national standard for excessive use of force. We can't have Ferguson and Baltimore happening again and again.
Many of the demonstrators on Monday were teenagers. Edward Lawrence, CBS News, Baltimore.
And you've probably seen this video by now. A Baltimore mother caught her son taking part in yesterday's riots, and she showed him some tough love. Yesterday, she spoke only to CBS News.
And he gave me eye contact. And at that point, you know, not even thinking about cameras or anything like that, that's my only son. And at the end of the day, I don't want him to be a Freddie Gray.
You can see more of the interview with Toya Graham. That's coming up later. She will be live on CBS This Morning, which you can watch right here on WKYT at 7 this morning.
She's getting a lot of positive feedback, that's for sure. Well, people across the nation are joining together to discuss the protests in Baltimore. Just an hour and a half away in Cincinnati, the Black Lives Matter group will be holding a solidarity protest tomorrow. The group is planning a peaceful rally at the Hamilton County Courthouse at 6 p.m. Protesters are asking for Baltimore curfews to be lifted and that other protesters be released from police custody.
Some leaders of the community will come together tomorrow and talk about how to make Lexington a safer place. The Lexington chapter of the NAACP has teamed up with the city for a town hall forum. Lexington Police Chief Mark Barnard, along with corrections leaders and others in the community, will be taking part. They say it's a timely forum, but it was not the result of recent events elsewhere.
Really doesn't have to do with Baltimore. It has to do with Lexington, Kentucky, right where we live. We've already put this in motion. This was scheduled before there was even a breakout in Baltimore. So we want to do what we need to do here so our communities can come together.
And this is a proactive thing that we talked about from day one, is we need to show people we're together and not far. We can have differences, but we can discuss them, but we don't want to put our heads in the sand. We want to be proactive.
Employment opportunities will also be presented at the forum. It is scheduled for tomorrow night at 6. It will be at Winburn Middle School, and it is open to the public. The time is 4:40. It's 20 before 5, and WKYT this morning, we're just getting started.
It can be overwhelming for new moms figuring out everything they need for baby. When we return, Moms Every Day has some advice for choosing diapers.
We have 30s and 40s outside right now. Not as cold as it has been. Small shower chances we slide into tomorrow. And then we look for a big time warm up. I'll show you all that coming up next.